Phoscyon 2 is out from D16 and this thing is fucking amazing. If you follow my channel and you watched some of my jam and videos, you probably know how much I love that old school sound of techno and trance, and especially that acid sound from the iconic Roland TB303. So I've been waiting, like many others, for D16 to finally update their excellent plugin, the Phoscyon, to version 2. Phoscyon is basically an emulation of the Roland TB03 but with some twist. And especially in this very much anticipated new version, they took it into new levels and I think they did some really great job. So when I saw it yesterday in my feed, I immediately grabbed a copy of it, spent the last couple of days having a lot of fun with it, and in this video I want to give you an overview of this plugin and show you some jam and what it can do. Up at the top here we have this section for preset where we can choose or save a preset that will save the combination of the synthesized preset together with the sequence preset, which can also individually be selected or saved. So basically you can save settings for all the configuration of the synthesizer and also save another preset, completely different preset that you can change for the sequence. And this scene preset over here combine this combination between the two selected presets. Here at the top, we also have this hidden section where we can customize and modify the TB303 in a more advanced way and alter the sounds in a way that were not possible with the original synthesizer. But we will talk about this in a second. And you can also select preset for this part here. The preset navigation window is simple and very easy to understand. You have all the regular stuff here. You can choose factory preset, user preset. You can filter them by the type of waveform, which is really cool, or by the type of distortion that you've been using, or you can add your own tags, customized tags, and you can also favorite or pin some of the preset that you like most. And this Windows section is identical for all the preset. It has a built-in super capable and really cool sequencer and arpeggiator that can either look like this modern version of it, or you, if you prefer, you can also go back and revert to make it look like the original TB303. But personally, I prefer this look. I think this makes it much more easier to come with some cool patterns. All right, moving to the synth engine part. And if you're familiar with the TB303, there is no surprise here. You have the tuning knob, the cutoff, the resonance, envelope mode, decay, and accent. Now, this is where it's becoming a bit interesting with this. On the right side, you have some control that were not available on the original TB303 with adjustment of the slide time, adjustment for the sweep amount. You could also add here envelope attack and change the accent decay or the accent volume, and also control the vibration speed or depth. And of course, you can change between the waveform here if you want the saw oscillator or the square oscillator. Now in the play section, we have 3 different ways to use this device. We can use it externally with a MIDI keyboard or the DAW sequencer to control it. We could use the built-in sequencer, or we can use it in arpeggiator mode, which basically means that we can compose a pattern here and transpose it with either a MIDI keyboard or our DAW. Just below the synthesizer section, we also have the effects section with a dedicated distortion, an EQ, a limiter, reverb, chorus, and delay. We can choose to have the distortion either post or pre the audio channel. And here in the multi-effects section, we can also move around the order of the effect. If we want the limiter to start first, then the reverb, chorus, or we want the delay first, and so. For each effect in the multi-effects section, we have this simple version here, but we click on the edit button, we get some more advanced feature where we can further define all these effects, which is a nice touch in the UI. Now, each one of the effect can be activated or deactivated from this button over here. And we also have like a global bypass, which is really cool for all the effects. Now, the sequencer here is really cool one and really simple and very easy to use, which make the whole process of composing a pattern really fun and fast. In the keyboard section, you define the gate note, the note that will actually play it. In the octave section, you can transpose this note over here to be 3 octaves up or 1 below. At the lower section, we can control if we want to slide one note to another, if we want to accent, or if we want to have some vibrato effect. If we want, we can also export the sequencer pattern into a MIDI file and edit it even more inside our DAW. But personally, I prefer to use the built-in sequencer. In this section over here, we can edit the pattern. We can define the length for it, how many beats and bars. We can add some shuffle to give it a groove. We can also define each individual step length, which means that we can have the sound more staccato or legato with one note closer to the other one. We can also define here the scale and speed basically of the pattern. And if we want to have it as a full standard, dotted or tripled, we can also shift the pattern to right or left, transpose it up or down. And another cool feature here is that we can temporarily disable some of this feature. So if I have slides in a few places here, I can basically press this button and ignore them temporarily. And once I release it, it is back to the same state. Another cool feature on the sequencer is this random section, in which we can define some scale that we want to have some notes, random notes, transpose the bass of the scale, and then in real time, we could see the note being randomly created. So if we feel stuck, if we're just looking for some inspiration, this is a really, really cool way to come up with some cool patterns. We also have this pattern selection with 4 banks that each can store 12 patterns. And these patterns can either be changed from here, or we can use a MIDI keyboard or the DAW to switch between. We can copy and paste pattern between them. We can clear the pattern if you want to start from blank, from initial one. And almost each parameter here can be MIDI learned and controlled from a MIDI device or from your DAW. Moving back to this section over here, and probably one of the coolest and most anticipated feature with this new update is this section where we can modify and really change the character of the sound of the synthesizer of the 303. And this is something very similar to the devilish modification. So for example, you can change stuff here like the pulse width of the square wave oscillator, something that is not exist in the original TB303. So overall, this thing is fantastic. It sounds great. It looks great. Very easy to use. I think that D16 did amazing job with this update. All right, let's see these things now in action. Let's see how it works. I have here this simple session in Ableton Live with a few drums section. I have the TR-909 from Roland, and I'm using the Roland Cloud version of that. I also have here the TR-808, also from the Roland Cloud. And in the bass group over here, I have two Phoscyon 2 fundamental bass pattern, one for the sub sound and another one for the more mid frequency. They both play the same pattern. The only difference here is that this one has a bit of reverb just to give it some more character and feel it in the mix. For the drum section, I first programmed the pattern in the built-in sequencer of the TR-909 and 808, and then copied that pattern to Ableton MIDI sequencer. And the reason I did it is just because that I feel that it's easier to sequence the clips than to use the very limited pattern player here in the Roland TR-909 cloud version. But I do feel that for programming the pattern, it's much easier to do it here and just grab it and move it here. And you can do it very easily by dragging from the plugin into Ableton that way. In this bassline channel over here, I have the main melody or motif for this jam where I play the acid part. And again, I'm using another Phoscyon 2 device here. I have it mapped and grouped over here just because I'm using the Akai APC40 MK2 to control the knobs and record it live. I also have here a string section that I'm using from Roland Virtual Model, the SRX strings, also part of the Roland Cloud, and a very simple timbre effect that I sequenced, apply some effect, and then recorded into waveform, and then using just here for some texture and just adding for the vibe of the track. After creating all the patterns, what I did is that I defined here in the master section how long do I want for each row of clips to play, and then once it's finished, it's moved to the next row, and then I don't need to worry about the sequence, so I can just control the synthesizer as you are about to see in the jam.